You were to have read over and put answers down on a page that was given to you. So let's talk about what you put on there.
Jump up, chuck his hands on the sheet and bro, guys, it's like Colin Kaepernick hated. That's how low you are. Did you need to? Did you need to? But what would you do for someone who doesn't take their hat off? They would do that.
All right, let's read the first
Get out of my car.
statement and see what thinks about it. Megan, read the first one for us. Louder, please.
Abraham Lincoln was the greatest emancipator during his life in the United States.
Okay, so how many of you agreed with that statement? Okay, anybody disagree? Interesting. Those of you that disagreed are in the minority, so we'll give you a chance to defend your answer for a minute or two. Alex?
I only said disagree because he wasn't for slavery or against slavery. He just didn't want the spread of slavery.
Okay, but he did write the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yeah, that's true. I just remember him being like reading it. He wasn't like as amazing as everybody.
Okay. Anybody else that disagreed? Want to give a reason? Okay, well, we'll find out later what you think about that. Read number 2 for Steph.
The North fought the war to eliminate slavery.
Okay, how many of you agreed with that? Don't be afraid. Okay, how many disagreed? All right, I'll let anybody on either side wants to make a statement.
The North fought to preserve the Union, and they weren't just trying to free slaves. That was kind of an afterthought.
Okay, so those of you that agreed with the statement and made a response to Caleb?
The one of the reasons they got pulled in was because of them trying to, because of the slavery issue. So that's why they were fighting, because they had to free the slaves, because that's what pulled them in.
Okay, is that saying the same thing as the statement?
The North fought the war to eliminate slavery.
All right, 'cause you're saying that's what pulled them in, or are you saying that that's why they were fighting the war, though?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All right. We'll find out about that later too. Read number 3 for us, Brady.
The South fought the war to preserve slavery.
Okay, how many of you agreed with that? Surprising, only a couple. The rest of you disagreed, I assume. So since the disagree would kind of be unusual, I think, in the general population, so we'll start with you. Why did you disagree with that? Michaela?
Well, we had an English class, and in this class, the South wasn't fighting to bring away slavery, they were fighting to have the right to govern themselves if they wish. And so slavery was an issue in that, but they also had other issues that they wanted to deal with.
Okay, a couple of you said you agreed with that. Do you have a response to what Michaela said? Okay, hearing none. We'll go to the next one. Wait, number 4?
Yeah.
Lydia, would you read that for us?
The South was actually better off in the long run for having lost the war, since it was able to become more like the North.
Okay, how many of you agreed with that? Okay, only a couple of Yankees in here, looks like. The rest of you disagreed. Okay, I'm interested to know why did anybody disagree with that? Alex?
I disagreed because slavery was good for the South economy and for cotton production and other things. Now they have to actually pay people to work.
But wasn't that better? Weren't they better off for doing that though in the long run?
Morally.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, Michaela?
I feel like the South is better for growing stuff, and so not having as much of the industry down there and like and growing with like culture was their culture. I mean slavery was in that, so that's horrible, but like they kind of lost a bit of their culture in the South.
Okay, you guys on some of these questions are going against the grain, you're going against the predominant thinking, which I'm not saying is good or bad at this point. Next question, Devin.
General Robert E. Lee was elected to join the Confederacy, doing so only so that he wouldn't have to fight against his home state of Virginia.
Okay, how many of you agreed with that? And disagree? Okay, let's start with the disagrees. Why did you disagree with that statement? Caleb?
Because he knew that the South had been wronged by what the federal government had been doing to them, and so he joined the South to defend their rights.
Okay, how do you see that as different than
Uh,
a statement? So it's not, you're saying he had more of a sympathy with the South
yes.
as a whole rather than not just his
Yeah.
home state of Virginia. Okay, so it was that's almost a disagreement on technicality, but that's legitimate to think that way, and to reason that way. All right, anybody else? A reason why you disagreed, or I guess if you agreed, you're just saying that that's a statement of fact, so not much to defend there unless you have a particular quote from someplace. Any other reason to disagree? Okay, read the next one for us. Hayden.
The conflict between the North and the South was in reality a civil war.
Okay. That's, without a context, that question's pretty hard to answer, I suppose, but how many of you agree with that? And so when it's called the Civil War, you say that's a good name for it. Okay, anybody disagree? Well, Hannah, I don't think I saw your hand up, did I?
Nope.
So, did you agree or disagree?
I said I agree.
Okay, well, put your hand up the next time. No one disagreed? All right, next question. Sally.
Unlike the Union, the Confederacy mistreated their prisoners as the prisoner of war camps.
Okay, how many of you agree? How many disagree? Okay, I think I saw 2 agreed. So, I think you got to defend why you disagree, even though there's a lot of you. Why would you disagree with that statement? Joey?
Because it says unlike the Union, and I feel like the Union did mistreat their prisoners at some points.
Okay, do you know anything about that?
Not at all.
Or are you just guessing?
I'm guessing.
Alex?
I just figured that most slave owners were kind to their slaves, so. it
Well, this is
might
talking about
translate
prisoner of
to
war
prisoners.
camps.
Yeah, I just figured,
Oh, so they'd be kind to the prisoners?
yeah, I mean, if they were considering them lesser
Because Southern
subjects,
people are just such a kindly lot.
yeah.
They would be nice to their prisoners, just like they're nice to their slaves. What if you think about those that mistreated their slaves? Would they mistreat the prisoners too? Maybe the ones in charge of the prison camps weren't the good masters, maybe they were the bad masters.
I guess that's true. There's no context, so.
Yeah, there's no context, exactly. And we don't have any facts to look at, it's just an impression. All right, you have something to add, Michaela?
Well, I know, like, I agree with Jerry that, like, unlike the Union, the Confederacy mistreated prisoners, because even though I don't know much about, like, the prisoner of war camps in the Civil War, like, Ned Cannon is without fault, and so there'd be a time where you would get really annoyed with, like, somebody on the opposite side, and they'd probably mistreat them.
Yeah, Caleb?
I agree as well because the Confederacy already didn't like the Union, so why would they treat them nicely? And they didn't have funds enough to take care of all the prisoners that they had.
Now, that's a key element right there, that last one. And we'll see how that played out. Okay, next one, Sarah?
The North championed the cause of equality, racial tolerance, and human brotherhood.
Okay, so some about the North in general as a whole. So what'd you say to that? How many of you agreed with that? How many disagreed? Okay, again, the agreed is just saying that statement's accurate. So if you disagreed, what did you find wrong with that statement? Caleb?
They still didn't think that blacks were equal
And how do you know that?
because they weren't citizens of the United States anyway.
Okay, any other reasons for disagreeing?
I believe based on the stuff that you told us, about like the fact that it wasn't necessarily the North saying they disagree with slavery, it just wasn't profitable to them, so because of that, they like victimized other people in the South, saying we're terrible people just because they could make money off it.
Okay, good, I'm glad you're listening. All right, what's the next question? Lahana, what's the next question?
What American colony first legalized slavery into America?
Okay.
In America?
The first colony that legalized slavery in America, right? That's what, all right, anybody have an answer? I'll give you the answer on this one after we hear a few. Devin?
I guess Virginia.
How many of you guessed Virginia? That's a very common guess on that one. Any other colonies? Anybody guess any other ones?
I said New York
Hey, why New York?
because they also wanted to get rid of it first, so they had it first and then they.
Oh,
And it
okay.
was probably a good port city to take them all in, and it was probably wealthier.
Okay, those are good reasonings. Any others? You put down, somebody put something else down. All your hands weren't up. What'd you put?
I put South Carolina.
Okay, that's a good guess. Nice, strong, it's the first state to secede. Maybe it's the first one to have slaves. Any others? Anybody else have South Carolina? All right. Any others? Is that all of them? You remember what you had?
I have Virginia, but what about Georgia?
Okay, what about Georgia? A lot of people wonder about Georgia. Georgia would be a good guess. The answer is the first colony to legalize slavery. The colony of Ohio, is that what you said? Which didn't exist. The answer is the first colony to legalize slavery was Massachusetts.
Makes sense.
So New York was the closest.
High school teachers and students, we just want to make you aware that at approximately 11:30, there will be a funeral across the street at the local funeral home, and they will be doing a 21-gun salute. So if you do hear that, that is what it's from. So please make sure that you are aware of that.
So if you hear gunfire at 11:30, don't panic. It's a funeral. All right. Next question. Sophia, what's the next question?
What American colony first attempted to prohibit the importation of slaves?
All right. Which one attempted to prohibit the importation of slaves? Said, we don't want slaves. What did you put for that one?
Rhode Island.
Because they're all about freedom. Yeah.
New York.
New York. Anybody else say Rhode Island? First of all, I forgot to ask. Anybody else say New York? Okay, you're sticking with New York as
Yeah.
the first to get them and the first to say no. Okay, what else? Let me say Pennsylvania. All right, that's good. You know, states that are promoting freedom. Anybody else? And love. Yeah. I mean, they even named the city of brotherly love, right? So, and we all know how true that is in Philadelphia. Well, maybe you don't know, but Hayden, what do you have?
Maryland.
How many said Maryland? Okay. Any others? All right, the first colony to, what did it say, attempt to forbid slavery, is that what it says?
Prohibited the importation of slaves.
To forbid the importation of slaves. The first one to attempt that, they weren't successful. The first one to attempt it was Virginia. So when the first slaves were brought over, they attempted to say, no, we don't want them, and they were kind of forced to take them. All right, next question. Steph, read the next one for us.
What Western Hemisphere nation first outlawed the importation of slaves in its constitution?
All right, so what nation in the Western Hemisphere, you all know what the Western Hemisphere is, don't you? What nation in the Western Hemisphere was the first one in its constitution to outlaw the importation of slaves? What do you think?
All right, so where does the Western Hemisphere start? Like In between what?
starts in Canada, on down to, what, Chile,
All right.
Argentina,
Ecuador.
all of this. So, do you have an answer?
Not anymore. No.
Did you put Antarctica? Or?
No, I put England because I wasn't sure.
No, that's the northern
Yeah.
hemisphere. Yeah, western goes down like that. Alex, what do you say?
I actually said Canada.
All right, anybody say Canada? Canada, yes, that sounds like that would be a good answer, but it's not. Yes, Jessica.
Is it possible the east and the western hemisphere the same as the north and south, or are they like?
No, north and south is, here's north and south, here's east and here's west.
What's in the middle?
Oh my
A
god.
line through the ocean.
Oh.
Are you serious? What? Do we need a geography lesson here? I thought you knew this. The equator divides the world north and south. And then the line that goes, well, actually, you basically bring it over this way. This is the Western Hemisphere. The Americas are the Western Hemisphere, and then Europe, Africa, Asia are the Eastern Hemisphere. So we're talking about over here.
I mean, what if you're inside over here?
So you could say this is east and that's west.
Yeah, there's somewhere else.
Somebody decided, like, at the very beginning. Well, actually, okay. I don't want to know if I get all this, but it's European dominated. So Europe looked at Asia as being in the east, and if they go this way, it's the west. So yeah, they're in the eastern hemisphere when you start dividing it up. Although if you draw the line over this way further, they would be, well, no, that's too confusing. But it's kind of a Europe-centered way of looking at things.
What about New Zealand? Because it like comes to like the end of its turning, like New Zealand comes around to like.
Well, it's still not all the way over here. It's still eastern hemisphere. It's not exactly equal. All right, let's get back to the question. Which country in its constitution in the Western Hemisphere was the first to outlaw slavery? Or importation of slaves, I should say. The importation of slaves. Hey.
Mexico.
All right, Mexico. Anybody else?
Venezuela.
Venezuela. Any particular reason why you picked Venezuela? It's fun to say, isn't it? Anybody else?
We're gonna go on a limb here. I guess Canada, but it's the United States. That's the first one to actually outlaw the importation of slaves.
Not in the Constitution. It's not. In fact, slavery is not mentioned by word in the Constitution. All right. Any others? The answer is the Confederate States of America were the first ones in their Constitution to outlaw the importation of slaves. What? You're thinking? Well,
It was the importation.
the importation of slaves, not slavery itself. Well, now, why would they do that? The Confederate States says no, you can't bring slaves into our country. You can't import them.
So they want to avoid like an uprising?
No. A lot of things, it's about economics. Joey?
Would the U.S. Confederate States be like Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia.
Just making sure I knew what they were.
Too many slaves would flood the market.
Okay, what would happen if there were too many slaves flooding the market? I mean, it wasn't happening, but they were wanting to prevent that. What would be?
They'd be worth less.
The slaves would be worth less. Yeah, no. So they wanted to keep the value of slaves high. So, the writers of the Constitution were predominantly slave owners, and they wanted to keep that way. Okay, what's the next question? Was that the last one? Oh, okay. All right, so we have some things that we did not resolve that is kind of open for us to learn. Hopefully gives you something to look forward to as we proceed into this unit. Some things that were surprises to you, I'm sure. based on the fact that no one knew the answer to some of those. And I put those in intentionally because they are surprising, those particular ones. All right, let's see. So we don't have time to do the next thing. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to have a little contest. I'm going to have you look for something in your book. It's in your book, so make sure you bring your textbook tomorrow. And I'll give a prize to the first person that finds it. So be sharp tomorrow. If there are any assignments on RunWeb, we didn't get done today what I wanted to, so we'll be a little behind possibly. We'll see what happens tomorrow. All right, any questions?